he's currently at the bottom of Sando's QB tiers. Where does he need to be at the end of the year? I think that Jalen Hurts is a good example. Like, I heard Mike Sando say the reason Jalen Hurts took such a big jump from the 30s to 20 was because tier 4 is reserved for guys that we haven't really seen before. That's part of what tier 4 is defined as, guys who haven't played that much, you haven't seen a lot, whatever. So it's not that people thought Jalen Hurts is way better than they thought he was a year ago. It's just that he fell in the category of we haven't really gotten to see him. Now he's a top T20, level quarterback, tied for 20. That's where they have him. I think you'd like to see Trey Lance at 20. If you told me Trey Lance is at 20 next year on the QB list, I'd say things went pretty well for the 49ers.
Well, if you think about it, the youngest guys in the top 20, Jalen's second year, Jalen's played 2 years. I'd say Herbert and Burrow are kind of the outliers of the group, right? They're 5 and 6. That's no one can even begin to think that. And then, Kyler's third year, who's right around 13. I think that feels a little high. I think you'd like him a little higher, like 18, but it feels like, oh, this guy's on the come up. I think anywhere from like 20 to 24 would feel like, God, this got a long way to go, I think like 18, just because there's already so many good players that it's not that crazy if he's behind them all. But like he's right there with Mac Jones, but it's like this guy's way more talented.
Yeah.
But he got to manage the game. He didn't have to carry him. I think if he's like 24 or 22 at the end of this year, the Niners that'd not be ideal. Because part of it would be like, I'm putting him because I think he's got to ascend.
Right.
And ultimately the Niners with Kyle
Jared Goff is 22 this year. That's not where the good quarterbacks are.
I was eating lunch, so I just skimmed through like all the shitty quarterbacks because I didn't go past like Jimmy. It's funny
I haven't actually scrolled this far. You want to scroll? Let's see.
It's funny to like read Jared Goff. Like everyone reads beside Davis Mills really shitty in this group, except the young guys. Some of the young guys, Tim Tebow was mentioned in Trey Lance.
Is that bad?
Well, read the first. Scroll up a little bit more. Read the first quote.
That play with that quote about Christmas.
Yeah.
That would be like my early Christmas present if they just get rid of Jimmy so that he can't play for them and then make Trey be your guy. A coach whose team plays the Niners this year said.
Now read the next quote.
You think it's a defensive coach or an offensive coach?
I mean, again, the quotes are just not great.
I love the skill set of Lance, but he had ball accuracy concerns on his tape coming out. He was really raw, a head coach said. The very little I've seen of him last year, he's got a little Tim Tebow to him. It's a long delivery. It seems like there's some mechanical things he has to work out, but that's from watching a limited number of plays.
Now, listen, in the Brady write-up, the difference between like Rodgers and Brady was that Brady didn't make N'Keal Harry look good. It was the stupidest thing I've ever read. So some of these quotes are dumb. But in 2 quotes on Trey Lance, Tim Tebow, in terms of delivery, was compared. And one coach who plays the 49ers is praying they cut Jimmy or trade Jimmy so he can play Trey Lance. Again, make of it what you will. Those just are the quotes. I'm not saying you got to put some of these quotes with a grain of salt, but the other thing, it's easy to say negative things, I would say, when you've played 2.5 games. No one knows, right? Ultimately, Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, for example, one thing I was reading, Trevor Lawrence, like his elbow's stiff, and there is a year body of work on those guys. I know Zach got banged up, but like they were the starter from day one. Like ultimately, Trey, there's nothing behind it beside 2 games, which I think for the most part, and Sando told Russillo this, like we tried to evaluate started 1 fucking game.
Yeah.
It's
that's
hard.
where part of it is like, what was your opinion when he came out of college, right?
Well, that's why for the first time this year, right, like Jalen Hurts got to start when Carson got benched. Then last year, he just was the starter. So to me, his evaluation is like at 19 or whatever. It's just based on his season as the Eagles quarterback, right? Like he has a season. Like how did he do? Starting quarterback, 17 games, Philadelphia Eagles. Well, they changed the offense, this, that. Well, they won 9 games, and somehow they got the 7th seed.
Yeah. To your point on the ranking, I'd like to feel better about Trey Lance than I feel about Jalen Hurts. But I like when you talk about take it with a grain of salt, for example, in this particular quote, I think the stuff on Trey's arm.
I meant more of the Jimmy quote than the Tebow thing's fair based on what we saw. It was loopy.
But see, this is what I would say is like I think the conversation about his arm was about his motion was a legitimate conversation. I also don't think he looks like Tim Tebow when he throws. You know what I mean?
No. But what he's saying is just long. Right?
Yeah. It would be like my early Christmas present if they get rid of Jimmy. See, when I read that, it feels like an offensive coach to me. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's a defensive coach who thinks that playing Jimmy is
well. My early Christmas present, the offensive coach would never see Jimmy unless he's the head coach and he's just thinking about his team. So it would either be the head coach, who then could be offense or defense, or the defensive coordinator. But I think Sando often writes like the defensive or offensive coordinator. He just wrote a coach.
Yeah. I just wonder, like
Pete Carroll, he's a Seattle guy.
Maybe this guy gets a lot of Christmas presents. But when you say it would be like my early of all the early Christmas presents he could choose, he would choose Jimmy Garoppolo's not their quarterback. Is he that afraid of Jimmy?
I don't know. It's crazy.
Maybe he is.
We'll scroll down to the last line that Sando just wrote. Or I mean, I guess the second to last line. This the
voters agreed that Lance struggled against Arizona and did not appear ready to start.
Which I think we'd all like. That to me is just true, right? Like it was a lot going on for him.
We thought so, yeah. But we also added to it a lot of you're not always ready to start in your first starts, but you start.
No one is, right?
I remember the first time I drove a car onto a highway. I assure you, I was not ready for it, but we got through it as a team.
I don't remember that moment.
I remember that moment very clearly.
I just hit the gas and went, baby.
It was raining. I was in a what was this? It was a convertible. What's the name of this car? Not a Sable, like a Mercury Sable, I think was the name of the car.
Top down?
No, it was pouring rain. This was the like driver's ed car, you know?
Oh, you were with the driver ed guy.
Yeah, I was with the driver's ed guy. So, anybody else you want to look at here? Marcus Mariota, just at Darnold, Trubisky, Drew Lock. There's a tier 5.
When I say that I scroll,
Gino is alone on tier 5?
I kind of stopped it probably at Trey.
How about tier 5 is just Gino?
Yeah, it's not a bad tier to be in. Do you know the tier you want to be in?
Your own bathroom.
Like Chase Daniel. No one messes with you.
Yeah, no one even talks about you. There's no list. There's no anonymous quotes that people come up to you. Like, you hear that shit they said about Brady? Be like, thank God no one said anything about me.